Welcome to another episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Joe C. Mandel, State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by a longtime friend who used to work for me, Alec Dionne. He's a NCO in the 122nd Theater Public Affairs Support Element. Traditional guardsman, but he lives in Massachusetts and still drills out here. He's going to talk about kind of his journey of coming from the other side of the country to come drill in Washington, what he does, what drove him out to the East Coast, and why you ultimately are still in the Washington Guard. So thanks for joining us, Alec.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so quick intro on yourself.
Yeah, so I joined the Washington Army National Guard when I was 18, back in 2015. It's been a few years for me now. And I joined because I kind of wanted something a bit more. I didn't want to just go to school or go sit in a job somewhere. I wanted a life with a bit of excitement. And, you know, I found out about the Guard because when I was at my high school Spanish class, some of our linguists came in. I don't even know where they were from. I don't remember. But that sort of got the idea going in my brain. Mm-hmm. And after that, I just, you know, I was always thinking about it. And then, you know, when I became an adult and I was 18, I was like, well, this is something I can go do.
Yeah.
And it's been a good path ever since. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, you used to work for me a long time ago. I think you were in the middle of like a school break, which was like summer. You were like, hey, you need something to do. Yeah. So it was great to get to learn, you know, get to know about you and get to spend time with you in the summer.
That was super helpful. You want to talk about a great summer job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, picking up some orders with the Guard is always was always on my short list.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm glad we were able to help you out.
No, thank
you. So you're an out-of-state driller, mm-hmm. right? And you ultimately live in Massachusetts, but you come out here still to drill, not 1 week in a month like most traditional guardsmen do, but you kind of do like a quarterly drill. Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so I got the idea for quarterly drills because I heard there's a Seaburn unit in the state. It's the really small one. It has like 3 or 4 people in it. Mm-hmm. They do quarterly drills. So that's how I even learned that this was a concept. And then so, you know, I was coming around on I needed to re-enlist, but I also knew I wanted to pursue more education. You know, just the line of work I'm in, a master's degree is really essential. And so I was looking at it and I was like, well, you know, I kind of want to stick with Washington. I like my unit. I like the state. I really like the missions we get. How can we make this happen? And, you know, I approached my unit. I'm lucky enough that they're able and willing to work with me on it. There's a memo you have to sign, as with all things in the Army. But, you know, I met with my Red Aid NCO. We came to an agreement. We established dates. You know, I've heard of people trying to do things where they don't go through that process, and it never works out.
Yeah.
So this is one of those ones where it really does pay to have that calendar, have that schedule.
Yeah.
And then we just made it work from there. There's some DTS involved, of course, for travel, but I come out here and my unit's good about supporting me. You know, I'm staying with someone from my unit right now. Yeah. And, you know, because I'm away and I'm doing other things that are enhancing my career, I try to bring them things back that are relevant to the Army.
Yeah. Yeah. So explain, you went to Massachusetts for your master's degree. Where did you get that at?
I got it at the Fletcher School at Tufts University.
Okay.
That is a school of international relations and law, which is the field I work in. I work in political analysis on my civilian career side. And so that was a 2-year program, and it's a pretty long, pretty intensive program mm-hmm. as far as the actual things we do every day. And that took me to Massachusetts in March 2011. And from there, I just got on the quarterly drilling schedule. I think that next fiscal year. I had some like AT stuff to finish out that summer, but then once the next fiscal year rolled over, I was on quarterly. It was great.
Yeah. So now you're still in Massachusetts. Talk about what you do full time in your civilian job.
Yeah. So my civilian career is technically I'm an external relations manager. Not too different from what we do here at the Public Affairs Office. But it has an element of political strategy for it too. So I work for a independent, nonpartisan think tank in Washington, D.C. We do sort of boutique political analysis on specialty issues. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, I was working for them remote. It was sort of, you know, the age of COVID. We were getting done with that, but it wasn't quite done yet, and I was in school, so that arrangement just worked out. And, you know, now that that's done and I'm done with my education, I'm looking to move down to Virginia quite shortly, so I'll be going there. And, you know, one thing that you have to be careful with, as you know, as a guardsman drilling traditionally, is you kind of want to find an employer that will support you in that.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, you know, of course you have legal protections, but it's always nice when you can have someone who will work with you. And that's one thing I really like about my current workplace, is that, you know, everyone who's, or at least most of the people that I work with, you know, they work with the executive branch, they work with government, so they understand when I say, you know, hey, I have this obligation.
Yeah.
They, you know, they don't have to mess with it. And when I signed my full-time contract recently, one of the first things I looked for was the military leave policy. That is, you know, absolutely essential if you're going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So now kind of, I always like to ask this question to our traditional guardsmen. Mm-hmm. Talk about that relationship. You know, how does the guard help you in your civilian job?
Yeah, it's opened a lot of doors for me, actually. So, you know, when I was a bit younger in college, you know, going into something that is sort of more internationally focused, you know, the Guard was taking me overseas since I was 19. Mm-hmm. And that's a big boost on my resume personally. You know, being able to go to these jobs and saying, well, I've worked with and, you know, represented the government in Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, all of those, that's a big boost.
Yeah.
And, you know, also the Guard has job skills. It depends on the MOS how much that's going to translate directly. But for something like public affairs, it translates really well. You know, every city and almost every company needs a communications person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really helpful for getting my career started. These days, it's not quite as direct job skills so much as it is some of the more intangibles. There's a bit of a reputation is almost not the right word, but that comes with working with government and also being in government. Of course, there's ethical lines that you can't cross.
Yeah.
But it helps. It certainly helps.
Yeah. So now explain, how does your civilian career help in your Guard career?
Yeah, that's super interesting. So when I go to work every day, I am, one, developing skills that could be relevant to my specific MOS 46 Sierra, which is public affairs. You know, I do event management and liaising with journalists and reporters. All of those are core metal tasks within the public affairs specialty. The other things that this specific job helps me with is that I'm involved with research within the DoD, with other sections of the DoD. So, you know, here in Washington State, we work a lot with the Pacific. And my work has taken me into doing some research with the Navy and figuring out what they want to do with the Pacific. Mm-hmm. So now when I go to an ODT with the Washington National Guard, I can say, okay, you know, in context, here's what, you know, this commander's telling me he or she wants to do. And here's what I know the Navy also wants to do. And I can start to marry those images in my brain and get a better sense for how we should represent the Army.
Yeah. So let's say there's a kid watching the video that's really interested in politics, or somebody that's in politics that's like, hey, you know, I'd be interested in the Guard. Mm-hmm. How do those kind of work together? How do they kind of start that process? What do they have to do to kind of jump into that world?
I think the first thing to keep in mind is that you can always do both, but you can't get them twisted. You know, I have worked on political campaigns before as a soldier. And you really have to make sure that when you do that you document your time, right? You got to not try and do campaign things when you're doing Army things and vice versa. That's really important. And really, it's my understanding that when you're on your civilian time, so to speak, that is your time and you can pursue your profession. There are regulations and you need to know them. But I would say that if you really have questions about getting started with that, I think the JAG office is probably the best place to go. But really, the rules are pretty straightforward. Just don't mix the two.
Yeah. Anything else we didn't talk about you want to mention?
Yeah, I think that the real secret to being a traditional guardsman with a complex career, or a career that's really dedicated to work with your military career, is it requires some luck sometimes. But the thing that means that you need less luck is a lot of communication and at times having a sort of no excuses attitude. There's definitely been times when, you know, requiring real success in my civilian career while maintaining the Army, that required extra work out of me. And if you're going to want to do both, I just think you should understand that. It's a matter of how much do you want to do both.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in my undergrad, I managed to finish on time despite taking a break for basic training in the middle. And that didn't happen by just sitting around and hoping that it would work out. You know, I had to coordinate with professors. At AIT, I was doing homework after hours, so I'd go to AIT all day and then, you know, do college homework all evening. So it can work. You just got to want it.
Yeah. It's kind of how the Guard is.
Yeah.
Got to make sure you do both. Well, if you're interested in learning more about what Alec does full time, we can definitely put the information in the notes. If you like the video, give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you want to know more, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.